Ever wonder how Puff Daddy went from spinning records to building like a whole fashion empire?
Yeah, it's really kind of wild.
We're going to unpack Puff Daddy.
Yeah.
The man, the myth, the legend, Sean Combs, who
Right.
turned Bad Boy Records into a hip-hop dynasty.
A dynasty for sure.
So are you ready to dive into the music, the hustle, and legacy?
I'm so ready. Let's do it. You know, what's so captivating about Puff Daddy is how much he evolved.
Okay.
Like, he wasn't content with just producing hit after hit, He wanted to create a movement.
Yeah.
And that vision, that's what really comes through when you look at how he built Bad Boy Records.
It wasn't just like a record label, it was like a family.
Exactly.
And no one really embodied that family more than Biggie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The notorious B.I.G. and Puff Daddy, I mean, that relationship, it went way deeper than just artist and producer.
Oh, for sure.
They were genuine friends, and that comes through in their music.
And I'll be missing you.
Oh, man.
That wasn't just a tribute song after Biggie passed away. It was like a cultural moment.
It really was. It wasn't just a hit. It was raw emotion,
Yeah.
It was Puff Daddy, like, mourning for a brother.
Yeah.
And it really resonated with people.
It did. But even after that tragedy, Bad Boy had to evolve.
Right.
And that's when Mace kind of steps into the spotlight.
Yeah, and Mace, he brought a totally different energy, this really playful, infectious vibe.
Yeah.
That was different from Biggie's more lyrical, like, deep style.
Right.
But think about, can't nobody hold me down?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just pure fun.
Yeah.
So that was a strategic shift for sure to a more commercial sound,
Okay.
which, really widened their appeal, but they didn't sacrifice that core bad boy identity.
He just had this knack for spotting talent and then amplifying it.
He did.
And you see it with Faith Evans and Mary J. Blige.
Oh, tell me about it. Like, these are icons.
Talk about iconic women in hip-hop.
Right. And Faith Evans' story, it's really intertwined with Bad Boy's whole thing.
Yeah.
Not even just as an artist, but she was Biggie's wife.
Right.
And that just adds another whole layer to the story.
Absolutely.
And her voice, it's brought this whole soulful edge to their music.
Totally. And then there's Mary J. Blige.
Oh, the queen.
The queen of hip-hop soul.
And Puff Daddy's production on those early records, that was huge in shaping that sound.
Okay.
Like, he was blending those gritty hip-hop beats with these really soulful vocals.
Yeah.
And it created something, I don't know, it was both streetwise and vulnerable at the same time.
Yeah.
He was never afraid to experiment, to push boundaries,
Push it to the limit.
Yeah, and that's what made his impact so huge.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy how Puff Daddy's influence, stretched across different generations of hip-hop artists,
It really did.
Like you see with him and Jay-Z, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like two titans of the industry building their own empires.
Yeah, and it's like a mutual respect, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they both understood the business side of things.
Totally.
They weren't just rappers, they were CEOs. Like moguls, they had that vision.
And when they got together on a track, like on Can I Get A,
Oh man, that was huge.
it wasn't just a hit. It was like a power move.
100%, like a merging of these two forces in hip hop.
And then you've got like DJ Khaled representing like a whole other generation coming up.
Right, yeah.
And he was mentored by Puff Daddy.
Totally. DJ Khaled, the master of the anthems, he's always acknowledging Puff's mentorship.
Yeah.
It's like a passing of the torch,
Right.
And it really shows how Puff Daddy embraced being this guiding figure, this mentor.
For sure. But we can't talk about Puff Daddy without talking about the East Coast, West Coast rivalry.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That was huge back in the 90s, right? And I mean, it wasn't just about the music.
No, it was so much bigger.
It's culture.
Culture, for sure. And Puff Daddy was right in the middle of it all.
Front row seat.
And it's important to remember, this wasn't something that just exploded out of nowhere,
Right.
There was tension building up for years between the coasts, fueled by different styles, the media hype, and let's be real, egos.
Yeah, for sure.
Lots of big personalities.
And then when Tupac was shot in 94.
That changed everything.
Everything.
Yeah, it was a turning point for sure.
This feud, it just took on a life of its own.
It did. The media played a huge role in all that, fanning those flames.
Oh, yeah.
Sensationalized headlines, East Coast versus West Coast. It was crazy.
And all of a sudden, it's not just music anymore.
No, it went way beyond the music.
And Puff Daddy was a target, especially after Tupac publicly blamed him and Biggie for the shooting.
Right, and you can't forget about Hit 'Em Up, that diss track.
Oh, man.
That was a defining moment in the whole thing.
Right.
And even though Puff always denied being involved,
Right.
those accusations, they stuck around.
They did.
And it just threw more fuel on the fire, you know?
Yeah, totally. And then on the West Coast, you've got Suge Knight.
Oh, man. Talk about a powerful figure, you know?
He was not afraid of anything or anyone.
Suge Knight was a force, man. And his feud with Puff Daddy, you can just feel it.
Oh, yeah.
It was intense. Two titans going head to head.
It was like a heavyweight fight.
Exactly.
Man, it's impossible to talk about that whole era without talking about Tupac and Biggie, you know?
I know. It's heavy stuff.
It's heavy stuff.
Like two huge losses. And so close together.
I know.
It really cast a shadow over everything, you know?
It did.
The violence, all those unanswered questions. Hip-hop had to face some hard truths.
Yeah, for sure. And Puff Daddy, I mean, talk about being right in the middle of the storm. I mean, some people would just want to disappear.
Oh, totally.
But not Puff Daddy.
No.
He did what he always did.
What's that?
He adapted.
Yeah.
He took that energy and he channeled it, you know?
And he always landed on his feet.
He did. Like, look at Sean John.
Oh, yeah, that's a good example.
It wasn't just like a celebrity clothing line. It was a whole fashion empire.
Right. That wasn't just about slapping his name on something.
Yeah.
It was Puff Daddy showing everybody he was a businessman.
He was unstoppable.
Seriously.
Movies, TV, even launching careers on making the band.
Making the band. That's a perfect example.
It really is.
Puff Daddy, he wasn't just making music anymore, you know?
Right.
He was shaping careers.
Right.
Mentoring artists.
Totally.
Bringing hip-hop to a whole new audience.
So when you look back at Puff Daddy's whole journey,
yeah,
what's the one word, what's the thing that stands out to you?
It's tough to pick just one word, you know?
I know, but if you had to.
I think I got to go with resilience.
Okay, I like it.
You know, this is someone who went through some real highs and lows.
The highest of highs, the lowest of lows.
Exactly. But no matter what, he found a way to rise above, you know?
He did.
He reinvented himself.
Reinvented.
And adapted to how hip-hop was changing.
I mean, where do you even place him in the whole story of hip-hop?
Oh, man. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
He was a visionary, no doubt. He had an ear for what worked, but he also attracted controversy.
He did. It's like, did he shape a crazy era?
Yeah.
Or did the era shape him?
It's complicated.
It is complicated.
And that's what makes his story so interesting.
It does.
It makes you think, you know?
It really does. Because ultimately, when you boil it all down, Puff Daddy's story, it reminds us that hip-hop, it's more than just music.
100%.
It's about ambition.
Yeah.
Resilience, you know, that ability to adapt and overcome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Coke built an empire, he weathered those storms, and he left a mark on the culture that you just can't deny.
For sure.
Hero or anti-hero, love him or hate him, Puff Daddy made an impact.
No doubt about it. And listeners, next time you hear a Puff Daddy track, remember this.
That's that.
You're not just hearing music, you're hearing hip-hop history.